Hello, and welcome to the 2021 reading of the Best Small Fictions and Best Microfiction anthologies. This reading is an international online reading and part of National Flash Fiction Day New Zealand, which is happening today, June 22nd in New Zealand. I am Meg Pokris, co-editor of Best Microfiction. It's an honor to host our readers together with the Best Small Fictions today. Congratulations to Nathan Leslie and the rest of the Best Small Fictions team on their forthcoming 2021 anthology, and thank you so much to Michelle Elvey for organizing this event. I'm thrilled to host 7 of our Best Microfiction 2021 authors here with us tonight. And just a few quick words before we begin. When I began writing microfiction back in 2008, there were only a handful of journals who would even consider publishing it. Here in 2021, there are hundreds and hundreds of small literary journals who love, support, and publish the form. This is so exciting to me. The dedicated editors of these journals are the most vital advocates of the form, and they are the reason that the form is thriving. Small literary journals are serious labors of love, and they're really hard to run. And they have brought this form into its time, which is why our focus at Best Microfiction is to publish the very best from small independent journals every year. As a writer of microfiction myself, I can say that the deeper I become involved in the editorial side of the form, the more it fascinates me. And here's a quality that I keep coming back to. Because of its intensity and compression, microfiction creates a feeling of collaboration between the reader and the writer. And to me, that place and this form is magic. And it's a good time tonight to reflect on how our series has evolved. Happily established now, our anthology demonstrates that we are growing and changing rather than leaning toward a particular type of writing or a selection based on precedent. Our series is 3 years old and rapidly growing into the diverse international anthology we envisioned at the outset. This has been such an exciting year for us at Best Microfiction. I'm honored to say that we've received a bronze medal in the Independent Publishers Book Awards at IPI this year. And congratulations to our editorial team and to the Best Microfiction 2021 authors. So every year, our chosen judge / guest editor has the opportunity to create an eclectic selection enriched with their personal sense of what resonates and what makes them excited about the form. This year, readers will see how our guest editor, Amber Sparks, has chosen risk-taking, unclassifiable pieces. And now let me introduce my great co-editor, Gary Fink. Gary Fink's books have won the Flannery O'Connor Prize for Short Fiction, the Robert C. Jones Prize for Short Nonfiction Prose, and the Wheeler Prize for Poetry. His latest collections are The Sorrows, Stories, and The Infinity Room, Poems. His stories, poems, and essays have appeared in such periodicals as Harper's, the Paris Review, Plowshares Poetry, and the Missouri Review, as well as the Best American Essays 2020 and the Best Small Fictions 2020. So take it away, Gary.
Okay, thanks, Meg. Yeah, first of all, just let me second everything that Meg said, except for my bio, I guess. But because I feel pretty much the same way about sharing this experience of editing and promoting work that we admire. We go back and forth, and it's a real pleasure working with Meg. We talk virtually to each other quite a bit about the stories we read. And I think maybe the best thing about being involved in this in its first 3 years is all the wonderful new voices, people whose work I've never seen before, that surface each year, and we discover and we help them out into the world. I went back to read the 7 writers that are rereading their stories today. And what I found myself doing was rereading like a couple dozen other ones. It was like looking at an old yearbook, something like that. So it's a real pleasure. And I hope everybody enjoys what's being read today. I'm going to very briefly introduce those 7 people, and we've gone through this alphabetical list, so I hope it works out. First will be Sudha Balakabal, whose short fiction is published in Smoke Long, Split Lip, Pigeonholes, and many other journals. And she's the author of a novel entitled A New Dawn. And then Exodus Brownlow, who's been published in places like Electric Lit and Hobart and Booth, Fractured Lit, Jellyfish Review, and lots of others. She's working on a novel as well, but maybe unnamed at the moment. Epiphany Farrell, who in her bio says she lives perilously close to the Shawnee Hills Wine Trail. Maybe that's a great place to visit, and that's in Southern Illinois, which I certainly never knew. Her stories appear in places like Ghost Parachute, New Flash Fiction Review, Dead Mules School of Southern Literature, Miracle Monocle, and many others. Jeff, who has the most common name, yeah, Jeff Friedman's 8th book is The Marksman. It was published in just last year by Carnegie Mellon, a press that I'm really familiar with growing up in Pittsburgh. He's received the National Endowment Literature Translation Fellowship and 2 individual artist grants from the New Hampshire Arts Council. Dee Xiaowick-Grema is a hybrid writer living in New York City, and her works has appeared in places like Wildness, Jellyfish Review, again, Pithead Chapel, Entropy, and elsewhere. Melissa Ostrom is the author of The Beloved Wild and Unleaving. Her stories have been selected for Best Small Fictions 2019, Best Microfiction 2020. I'm going to mention that she teaches English at Genesee County Community College in Western New York because I once lived right down the street in Leroy when I was a high school teacher in the 70s and gave tennis lessons there every summer and played in lots of tournaments back when my knees worked. And finally, Lucy Jong, who writes codes and watches anime. Am I saying anime right? Is that right? Because it's something I don't watch. Anyway, she reads for Barron Magazine and Heavy Feather Review and Pithead Chapel. And anyway, so Suda, get us started. I'll get out of the way. Everybody can follow and we'll just enjoy what you have to read.
Thank you, Gary. Philtrum. After your deployment, after the static riddled calls, after the 1,000 words emails, after you return at Christmas break, after I memorize the indentation above your upper lip, after you say it's called the philtrum, from the Greek for love charm, after the solitude of cold sheets, when you leave again, after your helicopter splinters, after your ashes arrive, after he is born, after he's placed in my arms, after I don't want him, after I recognize you in the dip of his upper lip, after I fall in love again, I ask you, why must this beginning come after an ending?
Hi, everybody. I'm Exodus, and I'm going to be reading my piece. It's 5 a.m.ish, and my father tells me a story from his time in Singapore. I'm riding along with my father in a too-dirty pickup truck, in a pair of gray sweatpants, in a bleach-stained Bruno Mars t-shirt, and there's a bonnet on my head that keeps the hair rollers underneath in place, still. He says, when I was in the Navy over there in Singapore, there was only 2 things the people ever asked you. It is 5 a.m.ish in the morning, and the sky is just beginning to become. I note how not sleepy I am, how if I really wanted to get up at 5 a.m. every day to achieve some semblance of the success that folks who wake up at this hour have, I probably could. They ask, and he assumes an accent, one that I should reprimand him for, but I tell myself that I'll get to it later. I forget to get to it later. Have you ever been to California? Do you know Michael Jackson? He has been telling me these Navy stories since I was a kid. His first time getting seriously drunk in Japan for something called the Red Monkey. His religious transition from Christianity to Islam, and how when he wanted to study the Quran, it always had to be done in a locked room, away from the rest of the text deemed safe enough for free public domain. His relief in being a young Black Mississippi man and finding similar souls on the ship who too were young, Black, male, and hailed from states like Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas, y'all being the common pronoun. As an almost 28-year-old, this story is very new. And then I told them, yeah, I've been to California. Yeah, I know Michael Jackson. Know him personally. I don't ask him why he lied about the Michael Jackson thing, mainly because I'm in love with the why that I've created. It's nice to be nice, and it's very nice to feel like you know someone who's been to all the places, who's shaken hands with the world's most influential people. It's nice to preserve some small inkling of the child that lives inside us all, where believing in the impossibility of every story is safe and wonderful. It's 6 a.m.-ish and the sky has become. The cantaloupe cream orange pours into the angel whipped white. The iced baby blues, the blackened seal teals serve as their bowl.
I think I'm up. I think I'm up.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
trying to get there. Am I still muted? Okay. Can you hear me? All right, I'll just go ahead then. Places I have peed. 1, the Grand Canyon, hiding behind a mule. During a break on the overnight trip to the Phantom Ranch. I was 16 and mortified. 2, Hoover Dam, the restroom at the top of the dam, with an intriguing deco design on the floor. I was 22 and high as a kite. 3, at Tony's, where Jordan asked me to marry him. Try the tenderloin of foie gras. It is to die for, I swear. 4, the Larimore with my bridesmaids, 2 of them, holding my tulle and satin and lace moments before I was to make my grand entrance. 5, my in-laws' timeshare in Naples, Florida, where the bathroom was decorated with mermaid tiles and clawfoot bathtub painted pearly aquamarine. 6, the Gulf of Mexico, several times on our honeymoon. 7, my in-laws' house in the country, the bathroom at the back of the house, where I borrowed without asking a Zoloft from the array of neatly arranged choices. 8, same place, on a magic stick that showed a plus sign. 9, the Atlanta penthouse, where I hid in the jacuzzi tub, empty, until Jordan and a brunette I vaguely remembered from our wedding went out onto the balcony, and I crept away with a pair of red panties found on the floor.
Can you hear me? Am I hearable? Okay. Meg, first of all, thank you for inviting me, and Gary, thank you for inviting me. It's wonderful to read with all these terrific writers, and those were 3 great readings ahead of me. I love those pieces. And it's also great to be reading on National Flash Fiction Day in New Zealand. Who knew? I'm going to go ahead and just read the piece after. It's called Lost Memory. My sister stole a memory of mine from my house and took it home, hidden in her coat. I couldn't remember the memory, but there was an empty space on the sideboard under the window. Give me back my memory, I said, standing outside her door, and I won't report you to the authorities. She let me in. Don't be ridiculous, she said. Why would I steal a memory of yours? It didn't take me long to find the memory, a blue jar sitting on the glass stand between two chairs. When I picked it up, she looked puzzled. This is my place, she said. These are my things. Not true, I replied, and unscrewed the lid. Emptiness wafted out with its stinging scent. Now I remembered something I had wanted to forget. I screwed the lid back on quickly and set it down. That's my memory, she said. You shouldn't have opened it. Then what do you remember, I asked. Nothing. It's gone because you let it out. And as I stood there, angry at my sister, the scent of the memory evaporated, and all I could remember was the jar, and now that belonged to her. Thank you.
Hi, y'all. I'm Dee. I'm going to be reading Cactus. The cactus is blooming, my husband says. My eyes are shut. The insides of my eyelids are orange and the light streaming through. I've come to believe orange is the color of vast, unbroken love. I'm the safest I've ever been. We live in DC in a little house with a patio where I sit, eyes closed, the sun warm on my face, in a city being buried under the weight of transplants like us. My husband strokes my arm once before he leaves for work, a light touch to say I needn't open my eyes. His grandmother fled Germany just in time. I don't work this morning. During the war in Sri Lanka, my mother went to work every morning pretending she was taking a stroll. She wore her everyday clothes, carrying a market bag, slipped down a side street so an unmarked van could ferry her to a government job, always under threat of bombing. Every night, I waited by the gate for the van to bring her home. Years later, she would tell me she'd never forget those rides, the smell of bodies burning in the streets. I never asked whose bodies. In the Negev, my husband's mother hid in a barrel during shelling. In Sri Lanka, I practiced hiding under the desk every morning after class prayers, but the bombs never dropped on me. Now here we are, cactus blooming, eyes closed, my husband leaving with a soft touch in the morning. We both know we'll be back in the evening. If I open my eyes, I'll think of who this city that isn't my city isn't safe for, on whose cities our mothers and our mothers' mothers built our lives. So I keep my eyes shut. This is the safety love won us.
Hi, my name's Melissa Ostrom, and this piece is very short. It's called Red. Should she have ignored him? He smiled. Should she not have smiled back? He asked her where her friends were. Should she have lied? Should she have said somewhere around here, somewhere nearby? Was a girl allowed to walk? Should she not have been alone in the first place? Was a girl allowed to walk in these woods alone? He said he liked her outfit. She said, thank you. Should she not have worn this outfit, not have worn red? When he asked her where she was going, should she have said to visit her boyfriend, the cop, her father, the pastor, her grandfather, the judge? And when she opened the door to the house in the woods, should she have locked it behind her? Should she have realized a lock would make no difference? Safety, happiness, and hope were already gone. Should she have noticed the fruit flies over the bowl of wine saps, how the flies weren't burrowing and hovering, but disturbed and traveling fast? And what about her grandmother? When grandma didn't answer her hello, should she have left? Should she have grabbed the poker by the hearth just in case? Should she have cleared her throat and prepared to scream just in case? Should she have shouted out the window for help, for an eyewitness, for someone to believe her, just in case? Like the hunter she saw in the hunting blind by the stream, would he hear her? Would he help her? Would he hurt her too? And what about the stranger? Should she confront him, fight him, try to escape him? Would she stand a chance? Would she even see him coming? Would she notice his shadow in the uncertain soft light that pooled across the floor.
Hi, I'm Lucy. I'll be reading Code Baby in Third Point Press. I initialize constants for your name, variables for your height and weight, buffer sizes for your capacity to learn. The code appeared in a spew of semicolons and letters, incrementing and transferring and accessing memory segments that you'd grow into. You'd find solace in an aluminum box, operating between 5% and 90% non-condensing humidity, a beryllium-free environment. You'd age, become more complex, a pile of hacks and one-off conditionals, security by obfuscation, and the occasional glitch. Uncaught exception, object cannot be nil. You were there and then you weren't. An empty crib, lollipop pattern sheets flat, untouched. Some cryptographic state information was unavailable. The secrets whispered by your fetal heartbeat, I could never hear. Error, use of undeclared identifier. I saw something the compiler did not, an unhackable placenta. Malak, error for object address, double free. Killed you once, removed you twice. Uterus sucked clean, spirit swept into graves. You stopped growing in megabytes. You crashed, panicked, spun up the CPU until my skin burned. UML diagrams, flowcharts, object-oriented design. I planned. I swear I planned. I implemented and built this thing to last. Like a bird, I laid an egg, expelled from my body as a yolk missing its shell. I couldn't get it to work again, couldn't glue it back together with bit flips and binary, so I buried it in a hole.
Best Microfictions, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for all those great pieces. I see some really nice familiar names that Best Small Fictions has also published. Just wonderful stuff. Keep it up. I'm Nathan Leslie from Best Small Fictions, and at this point I'd like to say a few words about Best Small Fictions anthology. Mostly thank yous to Michelle Elvey for putting this whole event together. It's just wonderful. And to Meg and Gary for teaming up with me on this great event. I mean, I love working with Meg and Gary on anything. It's just a real treat and pleasure to have this kind of relationship where our anthologies can come together and work together to showpiece everything that we've been doing. I just wanted to also make a remark that it's really, to me, it's so exciting to work with flash fiction or small fictions or microfictions or whatever we want to call these pieces that we all love and write and read. 20 years ago, when I was in my MFA program at University of Maryland, I remember I felt like flash fiction was sort of looked down upon at that point, maybe 20 years ago, or sort of secondary status. And look how far we've come in that period. And now, I mean, we have anthologies, we have readings, we have so many magazines, journals that embrace the form. It's just really wonderful to see. And it's such a embraceable form, isn't it? I mean, it's so dynamic and exciting. It has this poetic quality, this lyric quality, this abstract philosophical quality. It can be abstract, it can be experimental. It has a lot of variety and dynamism, I think, that maybe other forms are attempting to achieve. So kudos to the whole flash fiction community for really building that. In terms of Best Small Fictions, there's so many people to thank, and I'll just mention a few particular names. Rian Amilcar Scott, who's our wonderful guest editor, did such a great job this year. Michelle Elvey is one of our assistant editors, Claire Gutton, and we have a number of interns, the founding editor, Tara Massey, a number of consulting editors, and others to really thank for this wonderful anthology, including Sonder Press. I also wanted to give a little shout out to the many journals and magazines who, without them, this reading wouldn't be possible, and neither would our anthologies. So even if we don't necessarily acknowledge where every individual piece was published, without them, our anthologies simply wouldn't be able to be put together. So we have 8 authors, and I'm just going to keep this very short so we can save room for the actual readings themselves. We have the following order we'll proceed with: Vanessa Chan first, and then Jerry Chimeke, and then Noah Kova, and fourth, Carol Jean Gavin, Jules Hogan, Hillary Leftwich, Kaj Tanaka, and lastly, Hana Zahir. So in that order, we'll start it off with Vanessa. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm going to read Chalk, originally published in Flash Flood. Chalk. For many of us, the substitute teacher was the first white person we'd ever seen outside of television. Before this, for us, white men fell into 2 camps. Leonardo DiCaprio, youthful, floppy-haired, desirable, or Prince Charles, wrinkled, dog-like, horrifying. Mr. Gardner was different. He was older than Leo, but maintained a similar, though less successful, middle-parted hairstyle that stuck to his forehead like an oily curtain. His face, ruddy like the prince's, shone with sweat from the humid classroom, pink as the whole chickens our mothers would defrost in our kitchens. And he mispronounced everyone's name. After an unfortunate incident where he called my classmate Li Puiki, Li Puki, Puki being the Malay word for cunt, he appointed Lila, whose name he could pronounce, class monitor to help him take attendance. My mother did not approve. What business, she asked, did the school have hiring a guaylo during an economic downturn? Can't find someone local, she raged. She listened every day to Radio 4 as Prime Minister Mahathir blamed the 1998 financial crash on an American conspiracy. My father took issue with something quite different. The English are so smelly. Why is it with them the soap budget is the first thing to go? He doesn't smell so bad, I countered. And besides, it's too hot for them here. Undeterred, my father asked, how do you know? Have you sniffed his bum? My older sister wanted to know, is he cute? And to be honest, I wasn't sure. Mr. Gardiner taught history. It was an unfortunate incongruence, a white man hired to educate 13-year-olds on the impact of colonialism in their country. Yet the syllabus, unlike the tropical weather or pronunciation of girls' names, was the one thing Mr. Gardiner did not seem uncomfortable with. Each day, he learned 3 new Malay words. Then he would teach the rest of the class in English. For example, he might ask in English, what positive impacts did British colonization have on Malaysia? Then he would turn to the blackboard, scratching his 3 new Malay words in chalk. Agama, religion. Pendidikan, education. Tamadun, civilization. In the years that followed, we learned to be appalled by this unapologetic Eurocentrism. But at the time, we were preoccupied with something more ridiculous. When he finished scribing, Mr. Gardiner would wipe the chalk dust off his fingers and onto the back of the dark polyester slacks he wore. The chalk stains looked like ghost fingers grabbing at his bum. Lila, the class monitor, detested him. Her parents, like my mother, were angered by the influx of foreigners taking jobs from locals. Kalai Selvi felt sorry for him. He has no wife and no friends, and he's hot all the time. And I, as I watched the chalky fingers flex on his bum, felt a curious spaciousness fill the area below my stomach and above my pelvis. Much later, I would identify this feeling as desire, but at 13, it just made me feel like peeing. Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'm on. Hello, everyone. My name is Jerry Chemeke. I'm from Nigeria, and this piece is called Of Ours So Unsure. Day 3. These days, I feel out of touch with myself, like I pawned my soul for a bunch of medically induced feelings. I like to think that people should be happy or sad or their own terms. And the idea of attaining true peace by gulping a few blue and red, yellow things still doesn't make sense. Meanwhile, or at least that's what I'm led to believe. I'm of the view that joy in itself is a gift and not a composition of certain chemicals. A thing that people spend their entire lives searching for cannot be reduced to an issue of hormonal deficiencies. My body has developed a weird sense of humor too, playing a silly prank on me throughout the previous days' latter hours. But I am still here. Day 6. I've never been so unsure about everything, every single thing that my eyes revolve around. These walls should provide comfort, they should reek of solace, but the yellow paint snubs me tonight. The nightly wind sauntering through a raised curtain, but there is a deeper chill I find myself struggling with. Like the night itself chose to wrap me in cold arms, the kind of cold which 20 duvets would not cancel out. These things should make me feel all right, but then again, the thought of being all right for indefinite periods is enough to make me forfeit the few hours of sleep handed by nature. Green vegetation never comes with as much depth as blue dark oceans, and if there has to be some color in the room, it should find its way there on my own terms, and not because I am spurred on by the voices in these little dual colored things. Wouldn't it be out of touch with my nature if I never get to see things from a great scale perspective? Wouldn't it be fraudulent on my nights if there were no cloudy storms to roll in anymore? Well, for now, there's an impasse, a deadlock in terms of what levels of serotonin are permissible, a raging debate on whether happiness should be subjected to a question of chemicals and hormones in the first place. But at least I feel something. The debate keeps me going. Day 9, 3:16 a.m. My mental landscape is a boulevard of wingless dreams, false starts, and a pile of what would have been. It's not enough that on many nights, the sailboat rolls rudderless. The chilly waters are seeping in now, making it hard to move. This jar of pills is empty, and I crave for a new fix, a new pastime, or better still, a new excuse to justify the fact that I'm not on the race course with the rest. At least on the dark days I could feel, and I had found a way to grope in the shadows, but I do not know what to make of this colorlessness. It's not gray, but there are no rainbow-like hues either. And for more moments than one tonight, I feel colorblind. These thoughts have executed an invasion and rendered my duvet useless, and their marching sound won't be shut out even by 5 pillows to each ear. What do you do with a tree whose leaves hold colors that cannot be defined? I miss the nights of plunging down the ocean. I could describe the situation then, but not this. I can't wrap the fingers of my mind around what I feel. No, the question should be, is there even anything to feel? Logic is taking a power nap, and all the ones who said they would be on hand to cancel out the unsure moments are fast asleep. I guess I'll just keep floating. That is, if I can even call it that, because it's difficult to make out a concrete description of your movements in undefined space. Day X. Morning continues from where night left off, as there's nothing to pull me out of this stream of the unsure. I can't place a finger on how I feel. I can't confidently say if what I'm doing at the moment is actually feeling. There's no motivation to sleep, but there's no reason to be up either, and I'm left to half-heartedly stretch towards all the places that show no concrete signs of really wanting me. Half the world is asleep, and the other half couldn't be bothered, but I've never particularly embarked on a quest for sympathy. Words come with unlimited potential, and no amount of affection has ever or will ever be enough. Maybe I love groping my way in the dark, or to put it in context, rolling in the mire, unwilling to embrace light and fresh air. Or maybe I'm not just keen on believing in ideas and situations that seem so foreign now. If there were no bad moods, I probably wouldn't have any moods at all. And I've seen enough to know that when things go so well, I only have to wait on the sky to see how the rainbow clears out and watch the clouds return to their gloomy schedule. There is no happiness, only rare flashes of light. And there is no peace, only dementors that go on recess. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'll be reading a flash piece called Katya. So, Katya. The girls on the beach say that Katya killed her twin sister in the womb. They say that Katya has a whole floor of her house to herself, that Katya eats whipped cream from the canister, that Katya never has to go anywhere if she doesn't want to. It is Katya's 14th birthday, and the girls are convinced that she is wearing a bikini under her shirt. Anne and I sit side by side on a yellow towel and listen to them gossip. We used to know Katya. Now all we know is what the girls whisper. We watch as Katya dances in the water, her back to us. None of us join her. We're too scared to unfold from our sitting positions and bare bathing suits none of us want to admit to, not if there is a bikini wearer among us. Katya emerges from the waves and walks towards Anne and I. Her blue shirt sticks to her stomach and goes down to her thighs. I can't tell what she has underneath. We make room for her on the towel and she sits and pulls her knees up to her chest. The other girls watch us. Katya keeps her eyes fixed on the waves as if she's looking for something. I wonder if she really is wearing a bikini underneath and what's stopping her from revealing it to us. She should know we're waiting for her to make us jealous. She should know that we aren't here because of the cake or even because of our mothers, but because we're eager for miracles and she's the only one who can give them to us. Katya runs her hand through her blonde hair. When we were younger, the three of us used to tell each other ghost stories in the yard. Katya hadn't been Katya then, just the girl next door. We used to sit around a lit candle and say, what if, what if, what if, trying to summon other worlds. We stopped after Katya moved to the house where she had her own floor and became the girl who devoured her twin in the womb, the girl that might have a bikini under her shirt. Katya's parents bring her the birthday cake when the sun begins to set. Katya looks away from the water and back at us, waiting for her to reveal something spectacular. She takes off her shirt. Her bikini is everything we imagined, and we are hers once again. Katya looks at the cake with its delicate frosting, and we can see the hunger in her eyes. It is hers to devour, as is everything. Katya leans over to the candles and blows them out. As they flicker, I catch a glimpse of a blonde girl in the water, her arms reaching towards us. I can't tell if it's Katya from next door or Katya's devoured twin sister, or just a doorway to another world, closing in the light of the setting sun. Thank you.
Hi, I am reading Once a Fisherman that was originally published in Pithead Chapel. Above everything else, the fisherman was kind. We didn't know why he gave us names like angelfish, surf perch, blue spine, wabagong, salmon, stingray, and orca. We assumed it was because he had found us washed ashore with our namesakes. We assumed it was because he lived on the beach. We assumed he was a fisherman of old, even though he was younger than the fathers we had been carried away from when the big one shook us silly, broke the land we stood on, and the waves came and washed us away. We saw his hooks, how he polished them. He fed us. We didn't know what was in the bottles he shook into our meals. If we asked, the fisherman told us they were vitamins. He bathed us in salt water warmed in a large pot over his fire and poured into a tub he dug with his own hands. The fisherman scrubbed us with sea stars and braided kelp into our hair. Seasoning, he called it, for the coastal life was a harsh one. When Tang grew a tail, we thought maybe it was an anomaly. Then it started happening to more of us, lionfish, wrasse, grouper, and the rest. Every single one of us, dragging ourselves across the sand by our hands. We assumed he was building a mermaid menagerie of us. We were fine with it, to be honest, living so close to the sea. Most of us had inhaled so much water out there. What was a little bit more salt in our mouths? Most of us couldn't remember our names from before anyway. Most of us liked the idea of seashell bras and not having to worry about drowning if the earth butt us back into the deep. Most of us didn't give a shit about high heels anymore, or makeup, or loud music, and baked goods and books. What good had those things ever done for us? They never made us less willful, wild, irresponsible. We were just being turned into what we had already essentially become. Mermaids were beautiful, majestic, mythical. Clearly, the fisherman would take one of us for his wife. That's what we assumed. The scales that had tailed our legs together, spread up our bellies, finned our arms, parted just slightly to gill our necks. Our lips had fattened, our ears disappeared, our eyes went silent. We could no longer pull ourselves along the sand. We could no longer breathe where we had breathed effortlessly before. As we flopped, panicking for life, the fisherman smiled. The fisherman told us we were beautiful, all the while untangling his rods, all the while building a new boat. The fisherman said our tragedies had not ruined us. The fisherman was the one who saved us. The fisherman was the one who pulled us from the sand, brought us back our lives, took good care of us. The fisherman could have left us there where we washed up in the first place. The fisherman was the one who picked us up when we could no longer walk. The fisherman was the one who gave us our true forms. We were so grateful to the fisherman. The fisherman was the one who loved us when everything else had gone wrong. The fisherman was the one who took care of us when we wouldn't even take care of ourselves. The fisherman was the one who wanted us when the rest of the world threw us away. The fisherman was the one who would never give up on us, no matter how far we tried to swim.
Thank you, Carol Jean. I really liked that. I love mermaids. I'm gonna read my short story Sinkhole, which was originally published in Pigeonholes. I'm gonna start this off with a brief content warning for death of a parent. So if that's something you wanna skip out on, just mute your volume or mute your listening for now. Mavis couldn't help that her boy ate dirt. Alex, she told Roy, does not have a problem. He's eccentric, she said, over the rotting fence. He lives in his own little world, she laughed, to hide the wrenching in her throat. She watched her son kneel by the azaleas and scoop a handful of soil. She watched him bend his lips to his hands the way he might one day mouth a lover's body. Alex Donald, you quit that right now, Mavis yelled across the yard. Maybe it would have been easier if she weren't alone. 2 years ago, Clive was struck by a feral bolt of static when Alex was barely 3. He worked for Sprint up on the poles. He hung in his harness for 15 minutes, blood pooling like pale lichen in his face and shoulders. There was a crash pad, Mavis said. What the crap does that do if he's already dead? I'm sorry for your loss, she expected Roy to say. That's a real shame, or you're in my thoughts and prayers. Mavis was used to these platitudes. Sinkholes, Roy said. Those are a real problem. Here? Mavis peered into her fallow, dandelion-strewn lot. She bought this place with the insurance money. Kids need a yard. Everywhere there's groundwater and erosion, pavement ain't like your trees and vines. Your kid's eating dirt again. Mavis didn't look at her son. Let's go inside, she said. In her bedroom, she took off her blouse. I have tendinitis, Roy said. That won't stop us. As she kissed his navel, she asked him to talk about water tables and inundation. She wanted to hear about houses sucked under the earth, roads trafficked by subsumed asphalt. Roy couldn't think about much with her tongue between his thighs. He stood shivering like an aspen as she took him in her mouth. Between the azaleas, Alex lifted a palm of garden soil to his lips. He smelled the inner life there, a dusty and comforting smell like a favorite sweater. Between his teeth, the dirt was cold and bitter, and his saliva turned it to a wet paste, so when he swallowed, it almost choked him, the drowning, what he most desired. Thank you.
I also need to give a trigger warning. The piece I'm about to read contains description of suicide, so please do press the mute button or step away if you need to protect your headspace. Past hurts. I wake up every night unable to open my mouth. I'm grinding my teeth in my sleep. My dentist tells me it's either fear or stress. Figure out which one or both, and you'll figure out where the pain is coming from. Pain can be a symptom of something hidden, waiting, a phantom group of cells. If you're in pain, try not to think about the baby kidnapped from your neighbor's trailer when you were 12. You saw it on the news. Everyone did. The family dog shot and left to die. You were scared and tried to sleep in your mother's bed, but she pushed you away. You slept on the floor next to her bed, staring at her closet door. Your mother hid secret cardboard men in her, inside her, and in her closet. It scared you. Sometimes the hidden men turned out to be real. The mandible is the only part of the skull consisting of bone able to move. Clenching your jaw while you sleep can cause overuse of muscles, sensitivity to pain. It's a type of hurt syndrome. Where the pain begins is unknown. Every pain has its root. Every pain must have an outlet, an ending. Everything is connected. I've been feeling you in my bones. You're a low hum. You're the frozen field across from my house when I was 7. 7 was when I first realized I would die one day. 7 is the last time I was clean, untouched. In the field, no animal tracks scarred the snow. A perfect pasture. The hum phenomenon stretched from New Mexico to the UK. Vibrations between 32 hertz and 80 hertz were reported. Once you hear it, you can never unhear it. The first time you were inside of me, I could never unfeel it, the static. I could never unfeel this feeling of static. This feeling is a frozen field. I want it to rest there, remain stationary, safe from itself. When I was 16, our neighbor blew his brains out in his bathtub. The morning he died, I was touching myself under my fake satin sheets. The feel of the fabric against my legs was your skin, the feeling of your skin, more static. I heard the shot the second I climaxed, my knees buzzing. Later, the police said the suicide had been planned. Our neighbor woke up that morning and made himself breakfast. Eggs, bacon, hash browns. He climbed into his bathtub with his 9mm after writing a letter to his mother. His head exploded, his teeth scattering like pills on the blue bathroom tile. It took 2 days to find all of the pieces of his skull. Suicide euphoria occurs after someone has fully committed to killing themselves. Happiness, peace, acceptance. These are all signs. Robin Williams was found hanging by a belt in his closet by his assistant. When going through his belongings, his wife discovered his watches were missing and later found them in a sock tucked away at a friend's house. When she asked the friend about the sock full of watches, they had no idea why Williams had hidden them there. There are vibrations of our past that can never be buried. They said Williams looked like a cardboard cutout of a man when he was found dead inside his closet. If we take away someone's euphoria, we'll never know where they hide their watches. It took 2 days for the throbbing to stop in my jaw. It took 2 days for the hazmat cleaners to find the forgotten pieces of my neighbor's skull. It took 2 days for the family dog to drag itself from the abandoned field after it was shot, only to die alone on the doorstep, waiting for someone to return home. They never found the baby stolen from your neighbor's trailer. I've been feeling static in my bones. Gun, crack. Watches ticking. Frozen field cracks. You. Where pain begins is unknown. You're finding my forgotten pieces. They are hiding behind blood and bone, untouched, clean, vibrating.
That was awesome, Hillary. I'm still a little bit, that was really good. My story is called Beaver Dams and the Final Beaver Dam. We went down to the river yesterday to watch our beaver do his business. We have a beaver of our own, we said in wonder, here on our own land, just a little walk from our own house. We used to want things. I distinctly remember we used to want things, but I could hardly remember what those things might have been. The beaver did its thing for a while and we watched. It was really going to town on our trees. I said, this beaver is a poet, but his poetry is at the expense of our trees. He's so consistent, you said. Pretty soon, it was a lot of our trees in the river. It occurred to us then there were actually 2 beavers, and there had been 2 beavers the entire time. One beaver may hide another, as the poet tells us, but only one had been out of the water at once, so you couldn't really tell. I said, these beavers are kind of like us, you know, like there are 2 of us and there are 2 of them. What a pair of pairs we are together. Here's the figure the 2 beavers suggested to me. There's the first beaver, and there is the idea of the first beaver. There's the sky, which lies somewhere south of the sky, the final sky. You took my hand, your right hand in my left hand, and I really wondered where you ended and where I began. Was I myself, or was I somewhere within you, lost or hidden or unknowable or something? Here's another figure for your diary. A person holds hands with another person. 2 people spend the afternoon watching some beavers gnaw down some trees. It's an entire life if you're willing to modulate your expectations. I feel the sensations on your skin. I feel my damp left hand reach out and take your dry one. And at that point, the river began to overflow and divert. Oh shit, I said, the beavers are really doing their jobs today. You said we should seek higher ground, but we did not move. I felt the water creep under your butt, just as you felt the water creep under mine. We leaned back in the damp grass, and in doing so, we got even damper. Pretty soon everything was damp. By then, the stars were out, and for every star in the sky, there was another, bubbling up just beneath it, and beneath us, the final sky, our bodies floating away on it. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hanan here, and thank you so much for including me in this wonderful group. The stories have been amazing so far. The story I'm going to read is called Lovebird, and it was first published in Untitled Chapter. None of her children have shown up for her birthday, and Soraya sits at the window watching the empty driveway, upright in the walnut wood chair that her father had ordered from the most expensive retailer in Lahore for her wedding, what was it, 50 years ago, and ignores the hard-boiled egg and the orange and the glass of pomegranate juice on the tray in front of her. Same tray on which she had carried soup and water to her mother. She can't even remember how long ago. Feeling the burn from the heater on her small feet resting on the marble floor, and reaches for the single lovebird in the cage beside her. The silver coop with the blue bird her husband had given her on their 20th anniversary, with that sparkle in his eyes and a happy anniversary, darling, even though it was the same year she had lost her mother, and happy was the farthest thing from her mind. But he had been feeling guilty, turned out, about his new secret wife, and his affections had become louder and more elaborate until all three of her kids had started saying they wanted a love like their parents. As wasn't she so lucky? And her heart had fluttered at the sight of the delicate bird feet trembling on the perch, and she had believed she was lucky too. But the bird had died that December, and soon after her father was gone, and then her marriage followed when the letter from her husband's new wife arrived, which even now is pressed into an old copy of Sense and Sensibility on the bookshelf behind her, buried between her teaching notes, and which she had kept after all those deaths. So every time she stood in front of the classroom of eager girls, the pages reminded her not to forgive her husband and to restrain the silly chirps of teenage hearts by telling them everything died at its most beautiful, and that they must believe only the words that slice the heart. Truth was never meant to be kind. And at which she glances now, seeking that little blue edge that sticks out from between the pages as she holds the bird's neck gently between her knuckles and rubs her thumb against the red patch on its head, nearly as soft as the hair on her daughter's heads when they were little, before they had layered on hair color and rebellion and shaved and cut and changed entirely how they looked, in an effort she feels still to rid themselves of her. And she had been left with her son, who was the only one who had remained loyal. That sweet thing sitting quietly by her bed day after her husband moved out, and who, though he comes to see her less and less, pays for her to live now, and had wanted to give her his pocket money then, thinking it was the bird dying that had made her cry and wrap her blankets around her as if she was building herself a cocoon, and who is across the city somewhere with a woman he has come to love more. He was meant to sit in the other chair beside her today, looking out the window with her as she told him all about the dreams she had when she was a child, how she had wanted to train the birds to deliver letters when she was young, how she wished her mother had warned her about endings, how she had given up the habit of looking forward and abandoned her yearly walk to the kitchen to hang the scenes of Northern Pakistan calendar the maid and the cook so seemed to like. And could he find a new one for them? And slowly her knuckles squeeze the small neck between them, and with her other hand she holds the wings flapping strong and getting stronger. She knows they will be the strongest right before the end, until the claws scratching at her lap start to fail, and she tells herself, this is just how life goes, Surya. This is just how it is, and stares out the window. It is Wednesday, perhaps even Thursday. Tomorrow she will break off another piece of gold from her wedding bracelets and ask the girl who brings her food to go to the market and buy another bird. Thank you.
Is that our last reader tonight? Nathan? Okay, that was wonderful, everybody. Thank you so much. What a wonderful reading this was. Great celebration of both anthologies. Thank you so much for being here. And great work, everyone. Congratulations to all.
Thanks, Meg.
To all.
Thank everybody.